off the G5 jet. I'm on my way to a brand new kit.
Welcome back. eSIMstudios YouTube channel. Live stream episode number, I don't know, we got to be on 300 something at this point. Maybe 4, hell, I don't know. It's Thursday evening, April the 2nd, 2026. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thursday, rolling right through this week into the Easter holiday. How are you doing today, sir? Pleasure is all mine. Thank you for joining us today. Let me throw this up here, and we're going to get into some really good topics today. Kind of frustrated because I had planned on making a bunch of videos, and I still am, but for this Nothing Phone 4a Pro, and I had 2 scheduled for today, and I didn't get to them. I've been too busy, but I will try to record something right when this is done, depending on how long this goes. But I'm gonna put out more content. So I haven't even put my SIM in here. I know setting up a new phone, can anything be more dreadful than setting up a brand new phone? It's horrible. It's dreadful. Yes, you can transfer stuff when you get a new phone. You go through the setup process. It transfers your accounts, the apps you want to move over, but you got to sign into everything. And if you plan on having a device for a long time, look, transferring all your data might not be the best route. Now, let me tell you why. Because I go through so many phones, there's a phone every now and then that has bugs. Something seems jacked up on it. The battery life seems shot. Whatever it is, I don't want to transfer that data that's on the jacked up phone to the new phone. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just set a phone up fresh, new, like manually download the apps, manually sign into my Gmail accounts, manually do everything. It takes forever. If I'm going to have a phone for a while and I want a nice, clean start, I just set it up manually. So I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. I've only downloaded 5 or 6 apps. I only signed into I think 3 of my accounts. I have 13 Gmail accounts, all associated to different entities, right? They're not all burner accounts. A couple of them are, but for my online stuff, websites, businesses, I have individual email accounts tied to each one. Well, I need them on my phone so I can conduct business, right? In my eSIMstudios YouTube channel account is not the same as my personal account. You know what I'm saying? I have accounts for everything. So I've only signed into a few Gmail accounts. It sucks. I wish there was an easier way. I wish at some point, and maybe you can, because I don't know, on iOS, on iPhone, if you upgrade to a new iPhone, does it not only transfer your accounts, your apps, but does it also transfer data? Because I just simply don't know. And you can tell I'm not an iPhone user just by making that statement. I have no clue. But on the Android side, at some point, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, at some point, we need Android to implement data transfer with these apps. Now, I know it's probably some security stuff involved where they don't want you to clone somebody's phone to your phone and essentially have a carbon copy of their phone, but there needs to be some biometric security locks on. Maybe you could transfer the data of just a Cash App or Uber to my new phone, transfer my account, transfer all the data, just make me do the thumbprint or facial recognition or pattern or pin, but give me something. This is ridiculous. So it's going to gradually get there. I do need to put my SIM in here. I got earbuds to review. I need to go take this outside, take some pictures, check the battery life, because you can't really know what the battery life is without transferring your your SIM card in here, because the mobile data works in the background. All that goes into play with the battery life. But More stuff to come. Just a little disappointed on the network with this phone. I thought we had moved past it. I'm not going to get into it. If you're interested in what's going on with this and the network, well, you can see the video I uploaded yesterday or yesterday's live stream from Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. I spent essentially a whole hour discussing what's going on with this in the network. Well, I guess I could tell you. To make a long story short, T-Mobile's the only network that works completely on here. No issues, nothing, right? Verizon didn't even work. Doesn't even accept this on their network. And AT&T, I could only get 4G. So, sucks. But it's a beautiful phone. Thank God I have T-Mobile. If I had Verizon, I would be screwed. But we'll get into it. I'll just show my daughter the glyph lights and all this all this little roboto stuff that it does. So she was impressed, but quickly moved on back to her Pixel. Doesn't really impress her, but whatever. Okay, so I hope everybody's having a good day today. Appreciate you joining me. We're gonna get into. We got some. I don't know if it's good news, bad news, maybe news. I guess it could go either way with the new Samsung foldables that will be out in July. Fold 8, Flip 8. Got some news. You may like it depending on who you are. I don't know. And then we have S25 series, the S25 Ultra. Seems like it'll never get out of the beta program. And we also have some big Pixel 11 series news for everybody. Now, for the most part, I'm going to be referencing all the stuff or not all, but a large majority of the stuff from here on out moving forward. I'm going to reference the topics, the news, the information that we get from one of my websites, although I do need to add a new domain to it. So I'm going to link everything down below. It's the eSIMstudios blog, eSIMstudios.blogspot.com. Again, I'll link it down below. But I have news. It's continually updated. Even when I'm sleeping, my blog will be updated with the latest news and technology. I have it on autopilot. However, I do add in and throw in stories of my own that I want to talk about on the live stream. See what I'm saying? And it's a progressive web app. I've implemented that. Blogspot is pretty cool. Google owns it. They've owned it since 2000, 2009, a long time. You can modify the code. So I added in some lines of code and made it a progressive web app. So I'll link, as I mentioned, I'll link that down below. But let's get into, and you know what, real quick, it's kind of hard to, this is a little harder than I thought. Moving from the S26 Ultra, for all the shit it gets, I'm kind of not in a hurry. I was trying to pick the words nicely. I'm kind of moving slowly when it comes to moving my SIM card from this phone to this phone. I thought it would be an easy switch. I thought I would throw my SIM card into this literally as soon as I got it, right? Unboxing. And I think I said that on the unboxing. I was going to put my SIM card in here. Got carried away. You know how life is. But this is a really good phone. I know it gets a lot of shit from a lot of people. Samsung makes a good product, right? So I'm kind of, it's one of those things where now it's not going to be gone, but you don't know how good things are until it's gone, right? Now, I'm still going to have this. I'm just bumping it down to my number 2 device. I'm going to use it for all my content. At least that's the plan. We'll see how that goes. But I'll move my SIM either tonight or tomorrow morning and start shooting content on the Nothing Phone 4a Pro. What I want to do is make a video in regards to the operating system. You know, for whatever reason, I don't know why content creators don't make videos in regards to the operating system. It's like, yeah, it looks cool, but what about inside the phone? I don't mean hardware wise, like the battery. I'm talking in the operating system. I don't know. So I did that for the Motorola Signature. A lot of people liked it. I think it's my fourth or fifth most viewed video, and that was just showing the operating system. So I'm going to do the same thing. Look, a lot of people have not used a Nothing phone before, and it is, and look, it's Android at the end of the day, but it's a nice custom version of Android, sort of kind of like a custom ROM. But there are some people that maybe are eyeing this phone, that maybe they're iPhone users, maybe they've been using a Samsung for the entirety of their life, and they don't know what a Nothing phone looks and feels like when you get down to daily tasks, right? Daily operation of the phone. So I'm gonna record that video. We're gonna do a lot of stuff. I have a whole list planned, so we're gonna start that soon. Okay, so let me pull up this display. Let me pull up a screen share here, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. So this is eSIMstudios. I think I'm going to go back to eSIMstudios.com. I still own that domain. I just disconnected it because I was going to move it to another site, but I think that's not attached to anything. So at the moment, it's eSIMstudios.blogspot.com. However, I think in the future it'll be just eSIMstudios.com. But until then, I'll let you know when I change the domain. I think actually even when I do change it to eSIMstudios.com, I think even if you type in eSIMstudiosblogspot.com, I think it'll still show up. I link everything down below. So when in doubt, go below in the description. I got y'all. So, let's see here. Let me modify. How can I change? StreamYard changed up a lot of stuff here. Let's see. How can I move? What the hell is going on here? Trying to move my vertical slight. Let's see. What the hell? Yeah, all right, screw it. Never mind. Let's move on. Okay, so let's jump into the Pixel 11. We'll go from the bottom up. Pixel 11 Pro XL. So a couple days ago, and look, if you could not tell by now, this leak is all planned, right? We got the Pixel 11 on Tuesday. Like, wow, we got the Pixel 11 Pro on Wednesday, and we were like, wow. And now we get the Pixel 11 Pro XL on Thursday. Wow. I mean, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's the angle Google's hitting us with, and I agree. I think if I was in charge of the Pixel brand department in Google, I think his name, I just remembered it. It's Rick Osterlock. He's a Google employee that's in charge of the entire Pixel department or umbrella, right? I think if I was in charge of Google, I can't say I would do anything different. Now, I'm talking about in terms of, I guess I would have to be in charge of the marketing department, PR department. But as far as releasing this, right? They did it right in between the S26 Ultra and the Nothing Phone 4a Pro. Now, Google will easily outsell the Nothing Phone 4a Pro. They obviously will not outsell the S26 Ultra, but they want to remind people that are kind of holding out or kind of on the fence in regards to not really knowing which one to get, or damn, this really didn't seem like much of an upgrade going from the S25 Ultra to the S26 Ultra. So maybe I'm just going to wait, see what else is around. Well, that's where Google steps in. Google's like, well, hello, we're coming out with a new device here in a few months, and we will always be an option for you, is what Google is essentially saying. And again, I don't blame them rolling them out one at a time, one leak per day. is a decent strategy. And look, I've said it before, and I'm sure you've heard me. I'll say it again. I think this is a fantastic looking phone. Absolutely beautiful. Let me scroll it up a little bit so you can get a good picture of it. Not like you haven't seen this before, right? Now, I did notice one change just right now before I went live. I did notice something on this Pixel 11 that looks different from the Pixel 10 series and Pixel 9 series. I'm going to pull up another image. Can you tell what it is? So can I expand this? There we go. That's probably the best angle to see the change. I'm not sure if you can, but actually I take that back. I see two. I see two right now. And these are two changes that I was desperately hoping they would make. And it looks like it's going to come to fruition. So the first change, and it has to do with aesthetics, the way it looks. The first change that I see is the camera island. Now, I know they don't have that half moon on there on the right side of the camera where the flash is. I know that's changed. Just all glass now. No little metal half moon. It's all glass. We know that. We discussed that on Tuesday when the Pixel 11 came out. However, I think this looks fantastic. Look at the camera island and look at the vertical camera island. So on old Pixels, not old Pixels, but on previous series, the camera island that goes up. So if this was the check this out. So if this is the camera island right here on it, pretend this is a Pixel right here, not this top part, but the part that's on the side, the border of the island. On the Pixel 10 and Pixel 9, the border of that island was a silver color. It was kind of silver like this. Now, Google, it appears, is going to color match whatever color your Pixel is. If you have a blue Pixel, you're going to have a blue camera island border. Not a huge change, and it took me a little while looking at it to see that change, but just that little touch I think adds something a little different, makes it look, just makes that color pop just a little more. And the border of the phone, one thing I've always hated on Pixel, and y'all know I love them, but the borders of the base model, Pixel, so not the Pro, not the XL, not the Fold, but the base model, the border of the phone was always color matched to whatever color of phone that was, right? If it was the blue Pixel 10, just the base model, it had a blue border, a blue mid-frame. They color matched it. Well, on the Pros and the Pro XLs, they had a chrome silver border, right? Real shiny. It looks like a chrome wheel from a vehicle, kind of like a mirror. It was real shiny, no matter what color you got. Now, it might be slightly tinted, right? Like the Moonstone. Actually, the Moonstone is a full silver color. I think the yellow or the hazel version on the Pixel 9 series was a slight tint, but it was still very shiny, still very shimmering chrome type of border. This year, they're going to move to color match whatever the phone is of that border. So you can see here on the Pixel 11 Pro XL, it's a blue Pixel. Well, guess what? It's going to have a blue border, a blue mid-frame. Now, maybe nitpicking here, or I think it looks fantastic. I've always wanted them to do that. Now, I've never thought they would make that change. But look, they're really not changing the look and feel and style of the phone. Minus, I think just removing that half moon on the camera bar makes a big difference. I think color matching on some of the accents around the phone make a big difference. Just the way it looks, right? They can't release a carbon copy. And a lot of times what Apple will do is if they're Lord knows Apple's been putting out the same iPhone for 7 years. Like, Apple is notorious for essentially putting out the same phone, but moving like a power button down 0.3 inches or moving the volume rocker up 0.25 inches, just enough to where you have to buy all new cases and accessories again, right? Pain in the ass. They nickel and dime you to death. Now, from what I can tell, the volume buttons are the same, the power buttons the same, and we won't really know until we get the phones. But I'm glad they're making these little changes. I think it's a beautiful looking phone, and I'm glad they didn't just drastically change it or attempt to do something that messes up the way it looks. So, look, spec wise, you're gonna get spec wise. We know what the Pixel 11 Pro XL is going to come with, and it's probably going to share the same specifications that the Pixel 11 Pro is going to have. Obviously, bigger battery, obviously bigger display. And one thing that I wish they did not differentiate between the models is faster charging. So the Pixel 11 Pro XL, I think, is going to remain at 45 watts charging, which is a lot faster than the Pixel 11 Pro, which should be at about 35 watts. You say, well, it's only 10-15 watt difference. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. The Pro XL charges a lot faster. We just got a Pixel 10 Pro XL just here a couple weeks ago. Charges a lot faster. So if you like faster charging, bigger, more beautiful displays, longer battery life, the Pro XL is where it's at. And I think I'm going to get the XL this year. I got the Pro, Pixel 10 Pro Moonstone. The bigger one just looks and feels more premium. I don't know what it is. Same material, same phone, same look, same feel. They're heavy though. But the Pro XL looks, looks more premium. You're going to get the Tensor G6. I'm not going to go there. We all know what that means. They're going with a new GPU from Immortals Power VR GPU. Hopefully they'll get it under control this time. I don't have much faith, but we'll see. Unfortunately, it looks like the 200 charging cycle limit is still going to be put in place. I wish that would make it optional, but they don't. And you're still going to get a fantastic camera experience with this device. It'll be fantastic. So if you're looking for a nice, big premium phone, I think Google will not. If you're not real spec heavy, meaning if you don't have to have the absolute most specced out phone, and you're okay with just using your phone for taking pictures and videos and a good user experience, Pixel is where it's at. So this should be a good device. It gets released in August, right around mid-August. So Jasper Edwards says Google already said that they aren't going to change the design of the next few Pixel phones very much. They did, and they also said yesterday, I'm not sure if you watched yesterday's stream, this might be, now of course we don't know, this might be the last Pixel with this look and feel, because a few years ago, the Rick Osterlock, he said that they look to change their design every few years, every 2 to 3 years. This is the third year that Google has this design language. So technically, from what he said, I can see them changing a design now on the Pixel 12 series. Now, what they would change it to, I have no idea. I don't know how you can get a better looking smartphone than that. I mean, say what you want. It's certainly unique. Even if you don't like it, I think we can all admit it's unique. I think it looks beautiful. I think it looks fantastic. I don't know what much more you can do to this design, and again, we'll just have to wait and see. But these will be released in mid-August, and I think they look fantastic. It's almost like one of those things where they really hit it on design. Like, I'm sure the design team is like, whoa, Whoa, we did it with this one. And that was a couple years ago with the Pixel 9 series, right? Um, I don't know. I bet twiddling their fingers like, well, I maybe we can sit on this for another year or two. They don't have to change anything now. I definitely don't want them to go in the Apple route where they sit on one design for 7 freaking years. But I would be okay maybe one more year on this design. But after a while, it's like, it's kind of getting old. But on the other hand, if every year, if they beat their sales from every other release, every other year that goes by, they sell more and more and more, they wouldn't be enticed to change their design. It's not like sales just dropped off a cliff and they're like, well, we have to do something to garner attention and try to generate sales, right? No, it's like Apple. It's probably why Apple stayed on the iPhone design for 7 years, is because every freaking year they beat the sales from the previous year. So Apple's like, why do we need to change anything? If it's not broken, don't fix it. I kind of think Google's on the same path. Every year their market share increases. I will have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. I'd like the heft of the Pixel 10 series. It's a heavy phone. The Galaxy S26 series feels too light for me. Feels more like a cheap mid-range device rather than a flagship. I agree. I picked up the Pixel 10 Pro XL we had a couple days ago to plug it in, and I was like, whoa, this thing is heavy as hell. It feels like a brick. But do get the premium feel. And I think that's why you've seen Samsung go to a more lighter phone, right? You've seen nothing really hasn't gone all in on the weight, but you've seen Samsung ever since the Edge came out. They're trying to make their thins. Ever since the S25 Edge came out, you see Samsung try to make their phones thinner and lighter, and Google's not doing that, right? I think it makes a difference. I can certainly tell, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I felt that same way picking up the Pixel 10 Pro XL just a couple days ago. I was like, it's heavy, but it's a good heavy. Like, it feels like you got a good hefty piece of technology here, you know? I like it. So I know there's mixed emotions or mixed feelings with Pixel. Some love them, some hate them, but I like them. I really do. So I find myself criticizing Google a lot. And viewers of this channel knows I have a strong dislike for that 200 charging cycle limit, where after 200 charging cycles, they bump the battery capacity down to 80% and they cut your charging in half. It took last week, I don't even use my Pixel anymore. It took me almost 2 hours. It was like an hour and 48 minutes to charge a Pixel 10 Pro. An hour and 48 minutes. So they need to make it optional in the settings. Whatever. I'm not gonna. I'm getting worked up. I'm gonna move on before I get too worked up. Okay. So we will keep an eye on the Pixel 11 series, and it's just right around the corner. So we will certainly keep an eye on it for you. Now, let me do this. Let's move into Samsung. Speaking of Samsung, it seems like the One UI 8.5 beta program is never ending. Ever. Forever. So, it might not be a bad thing. It depends on if you have one and you really want to get to the stable build. It's pretty stable at the moment. I think my battery life has gotten a little better over these last 2 updates. I have the beta build on my S25 Ultra. Horrible battery life. Although, I was just looking at it earlier. It's been on all day, and I started the day at 100%. It's now at 85%. In the past, just a few weeks ago, I would wake up at 100%, and I would have to charge my phone by this time already. By like 5 o'clock, or way before that. I'd have to charge this thing 2 times a day to keep this going, and now it's lasted all day and seems to be fixed almost. So I'm kind of regretting upgrading to the S26 Ultra. Actually not, but you know what I mean. If you hang on to your phone I think the beta program is a-okay, but I think it's closed at this point already, so there's really not any incentive into enrolling in it. But getting back to the story, this will be the scheduled ninth and 10th beta build before they roll this into the stable build. Typically, you'll get, it depends, it's not the same on each device with every manufacturer, but 10 beta builds is a lot. I think generally you'll get 3 to 4, maybe 5 beta updates, and they slowly change stuff and fix stuff with each build that gets released. They squash bugs and release another beta build and release another one. But 10 beta builds, I'm not sure I've ever seen that many. It's almost like a nightly custom ROM update. I think last month I got 2 updates in 1 month. So it's kind of good news, bad news, right? Because I know you want the One UI 8.5 stable build for the S25 series, but at this point, I think the battery life is fixed now. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't have any bugs minus that battery life thing, and especially if they squashed that. One UI beta, I think, and this is on the 8th. They have 8 released beta builds, and then they said today they plan on releasing a 9th and a 10th here in the near future. And they really didn't say much after that. We don't know if we're going to go beta 9, 10, and the 11th will be the stable build, or if we're going to have more. I think that's the plan, is going beta 9, beta 10, and then stable. But they didn't really say much after that. They said we're just scheduling beta 9, beta 10 here. But it can't wait too much longer. In the past, this would have already gotten, like with the S21, S22, S23, S24. Right now, the previous flagship model would have gotten the latest stable build of Android and One UI already. February would be the month where they release their new device, flagship device. January, February, late January, early February, and the newest flagship phone would have the latest software for about a month. And then the following month, they would release the stable build, following version of Android, following version of One UI to the previous flagship. And then they wait a month or two and then release that same build to the 2 years removed flagship. And then the month or two after that, they would release it for the other one. So you see where it would go S25, and then they would release an S24 a month later, then an S23 build a month after that. This one seems to be all jacked up, but at least you know they're working on it. It would be one thing if we didn't get any news. They made no statements. We got no beta updates, and we were just sitting in this like beta 4 with no direction. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. At least they're letting us know. At least they're. I would rather have a beta update released every couple weeks or at least once a month. Moving forward, at least you know they're working on it. Again, could be worse, but I'll certainly keep everybody up to date. But we do also have some interesting information on other builds. So the S24 series is also receiving its 2nd and 3rd beta updates in April, with beta 9 and beta 10 scheduled for April 9th and April 20th, respectively. That's when you can see the updates for your S25 series. If you have an S25, it's on the beta program, you're going to get beta 9 update on April 9th, and you're going to get the beta 10 update on April 20th. And it says the One UI 8.5 beta program has expanded to include the Galaxy Z Fold 6, Z Flip 6, and the S23 series, and the Z Fold 5 and Z Flip 5, with initial beta builds appearing on Samsung servers, which means they're getting that ready to get started up. That their beta program for the Z Flip 5 and Fold 5. So they're continually working on this. Now, the newer foldables like the Fold 7 and Flip 7 joined the beta program in early March, receiving their 2nd beta update through the rollouts. Future rollouts are not detailed, but I can promise you they are working on them. The stable One UI 8.5 update is anticipated to begin rolling out in April 2026, this month, with the S25 series expected to be the first to receive it. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, depending on what flagship you have, how old it is, then you'll kind of know. A month will pass and they'll update an older model. A month will pass and they'll update the previous flagship. So they've been doing that for years. And to be honest with you, I can't tell the difference. The operating system, using the phone, usability, graphical interface, they look kind of the same. In fact, they look almost identical. That's why I haven't done any reviews of One UI 8.5 beta, because I'm like, well, I can't even tell the difference. Now, the only thing where you will tell the difference is in small, not small, but strategically placed features like enhanced Galaxy AI tools. I'm not a big AI user. If you are, you might notice them. Smoother animations. I haven't noticed anything. Better battery improvements. At the beginning of this beta program, I would have said that's a bold-faced lie, but I think mine finally caught on. AI call-derived call screening that Pixel lovers have been using for years, and I think even now iPhone users are getting some of those features, not from Google. Well, they kind of copied the call screening from the Pixel, but Google has no involvement with the iOS. They just copied a feature. You see what I'm saying? The beta program is available in 6 countries: Germany, India, Poland, South Korea, UK, and US. Stay tuned. I'll let you know. Now, I wanna dive into this real quick before we get out of here. Look at this. This is sort of good news, bad news. And it depends on where you sit on the fence. Getting back to the S26 Ultra, some people didn't like the phone. Some people returned theirs because of a display issue. Now, they introduced the privacy thing, and no, privacy shade and display is not coming to the foldable segment for Samsung. But I bring it back to the S26, and why people returned it because of the display is the S25 series has Samsung's M13 OLED panel, a classic, an all-timer OLED panel for Samsung. Samsung has put the M13 OLED panel in iPhones. So essentially, not all, because they had a separate supply. They didn't want to rely 100% on Samsung for displays for their iPhones, but Samsung makes up like 80% of iPhone displays. The display is so good, Apple ordered tens of millions of these M13 OLED panels. The M13 OLED panel, you can find it on the S25 series. Phenomenal display. Samsung has had this new M14 OLED panel that they put on the iPhone 17 series, and everybody's like, wow, this is a fantastic panel. Samsung Galaxy lovers like myself said, boy, I cannot wait for this M14 OLED panel to get on these new S26 series. And then they jacked it all up with the privacy thing, privacy shade. They had to manipulate the pixels to get the privacy display and or privacy shade to work. And depending on who you are, you might not like the way your display looks because it is slightly different. It's not, some people say it's fuzzy. The S26 Ultra display compared to the S25 Ultra display, some say it's hazy, it's not as detailed, it looks slightly different. And I'm in the boat where it's still a great display, still bright, beautiful, nice bold colors, but it's just like not as good as the S25 Ultra. And we're going to get back to this because the new foldables have something to do with this. If the S25 Ultra's display, the M13 OLED panel, is like 100, like this is the best OLED panel I've ever seen in my life. Now, the S26 Ultra, I would put it at like 95. I think it's like 95% if this is like 100%, right? So you can see it's close, but I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it. But I was using this earlier and I was like, damn, I think this display is better. I won't use it for a day or two, then I come back and use it. I'm like, whoa, this display, I can tell the difference. But when you put them next to each other, maybe like 1% fuzzy, whatever. Let's get into the foldables. So where do the foldables come into this? Well, Samsung is going to put the M13 OLED panel, the same panel that's in this S25 Ultra, into the upcoming foldable series. So you're going to get the M13 OLED panel in the Z Fold 8 and the M13 OLED panel in the Z Flip 8. Now, why would they not put the latest and greatest OLED panel in their latest and greatest phones and their most expensive phone they sell, minus the trifold, is the Z Fold series? Why wouldn't they put their latest and greatest panel, the best they have on the market? Why would they not put that in their most expensive phone that they sell, right? You would think if you have a $2,000 phone, you'd want to spec it out, right? Well, we don't know the absolute specific answer to that question, but one aspect you can look at it from one lens, one angle, is cost reasons. So, for one thing, if you have a large consumer base that purchased, let's go back to panels. If you purchased, if a lot of your consumers can't tell the difference between these two panels right here, the S25 Ultra and the S26 Ultra, well then, why does Samsung need to put the latest and greatest on the new foldables? Or if people are saying, like myself, you know what, the S25 Ultra with the M13 OLED panel, there's something about it, it's just maybe slightly better than the new S26 Ultra with the M14 OLED panel. Well, if people can't tell the difference, and some of those people think the M13 OLED panel is better, then I can see why Samsung might put it in the new foldables. And a third reason, cost. So everybody knows, well, you might not. I put a video out. There was a news that came out a couple weeks ago. Samsung is in emergency management crisis mode, meaning all the executives working in the Samsung, not just the Samsung mobile department, but the entire company. Now they can't fly business class. They have to fly coach with all of us, right? They're trying to cut costs. Their revenue is getting smaller quarter on quarter, year on year. So Samsung has to drastically find cost-cutting measures. And I think that's the major determining factor of why they would put an M13 OLED panel in these new foldables, because they need to maximize that profit margin for products, quite frankly. I think that's the major determining factor. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to tell the difference. And just to let you know, the Z Fold 8 and Z Flip 8 are not, I repeat, are not going to have the privacy display or indoor privacy shade. The pixels that they put in, how they had to manipulate these pixels for the S26 series, at the moment, they cannot be bendable, right? You cannot bend them. Now, in the future, I'm sure Samsung will, come out with the technology to where you can actually, because remember, the foldables actually fold. So you have to bend those pixels. Plus, it looks different from, if you have your privacy shade turned on, your S26 Ultra, it looks different from the different angles. Well, if you fold something, it's going to mess up and change the way you're looking at your display. So in the future, they'll probably introduce privacy shade on the foldable segment. But at the moment, I think the reason why they're not putting their best OLED panel on here is to save money, and people are not going to be able to tell the difference. They may say they can tell the difference, but I guarantee you, if you had an M14 OLED panel and an M13 OLED panel side by side outside of a phone, right, you would not be able to tell the difference. You just wouldn't. They're both fantastic, and I think this is why they're making this decision, is to save them a little money, right? It all comes down to money. So, I see why they're making that decision. Now, I've seen a lot of people online blasting Samsung for this. And quite frankly, I just think, and I get it, you want the latest and greatest. And let me mention this. The only real difference, if visually, if you cannot tell the difference between these two OLED panels, the main difference between these two OLED panels, and I'm sure the M14 gets, like, I don't know, I'm just bringing this number up out of nowhere. I'm sure it gets 14% brighter. And, it has some like under the table, like fine details where it does have its advantages over the previous M13 OLED panel. But the main difference, the main thing where users would be able to tell a difference is in power consumption. The M14 OLED panel uses 74% less power to keep it powered on than the M13 OLED panel. So the panel itself is much more energy efficient than the previous year. Visually, there's really not that much of a difference. But behind the scenes, under the hood, it just uses less power to power on that panel, which in turn gives you better battery life. When Pixel switched to the M14 OLED panel in the Pixel 10 series, battery life is not drastically better, but I could tell a noticeable difference in battery life from the Pixel 10 series to the Pixel 9 series. And that's because, well, not the only reason, but Google did put the M14 OLED panel in the Pixel 10 series, and the Pixel 9 series has the M13 OLED panel. Samsung makes OLED panels for almost everybody. They're that good at it. So, look, they got to turn a profit. They have shareholders that demand a profit every quarter, every year. So they got to do what they got to do. And again, I don't think anybody's going to notice, right? I just don't. So I see why they're doing it. I don't think they deserve all the flack that they're getting online. I certainly don't think that. But let me get out of here. It's getting late, pushing an hour right about now. So I do appreciate the time. Please subscribe to the eSIMstudios YouTube channel. I'm going to do a giveaway tomorrow. So if you are new to the channel, I do giveaways maybe once or twice a week. So I'll do it tomorrow. And you gotta have two things to win. You gotta be subscribed to the channel, and you need to watch live so you can enter, and I'll do the drawing live on air. When I make it fair, nice and easy. I have a StreamYard giveaway tool that I put up on screen just like this, make it nice and fair. But you gotta subscribe and you gotta be present to win. So we'll do a giveaway tomorrow. Tomorrow's Good Friday. We'll do Good Giveaway Friday tomorrow. So appreciate the time. Hope everybody has a enjoyable but safe evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.